All right, we're kicking off the 2025 season here with a race in British Columbia. First round of the Western Offroad Championship. I'm based out of Alberta, but traveled to BC to race some of these rounds.
Bikes off, hands on the helmet! Bikes off, hands on the helmet!
Right off the start here, there was a crash. Looks like Spencer Wilton came into contact with another guy and took a tumble and got run over. So they've got to clear him and his bike off the course. I think he ended up being okay. He did get back on and start riding again in a bit. But yeah, this is a really fast section here right off the start. So it's almost a good thing that the crash happened early because you can get up to speeds over 7 kilometers an hour for sure on this first section. Yeah, we're about to kick off here, my first season in Expert.
Bikes off in the back! Bikes off! Bikes off! Hands on head, fellas! Hands on head! When the flag comes up, you are racing!
One helmet!
front lines, I chose to follow these guys up, and there was a guy behind me that went to the left and was able to scoop me, so good on him. Probably knows the course better than I do, and the reward is you make a pass. There's also a couple guys coming up behind me here, and generally speaking, off the start of a race, I'm not going too hard, so easier for me to just let somebody go by and run my own race than to have them nipping at my heels the whole time. So I let these two guys pass me as well here. I ended up speeding up some of the clips in this video just because a few of these sections are pretty mundane and there's not really much to see. So yeah, this is there's a few spots here where through the cut blocks and through road transfers and just things that are fairly uneventful. I've sped up the video in the interest of time. Now I've got the vet expert class right behind me here, and I make a small mistake and tip over and get passed by a whole pile of them. In my mind, I'm not really too panicked about it because I'm not racing against these guys, so it wasn't really the end of the world. But yeah, it's still frustrating. It's just an easy little bobble, but yeah, a bunch of these guys passed me. I rode the day before with a few of them and did some course scouting. The guy up front there, and I think Brandon Lowe is somewhere here, right there. We all rode together with Neil Carlson the day before, and we're checking out the course. So this isn't new to me, but it's still a place that I've never been before, and having only rode it the day before, you still get surprised every once in a while. But it's nice in BC to have that experience the course before you race it, just so you have a slight clue as to what's going to be, what you're going to be facing. These sections were pretty fun. Just, in the trees, in the roots. Not super slippery, but you've got to be, I guess, really careful with your front wheel placement because you can eat shit in here very easily if it's not in the right spot. So yeah, it was neat to come through here. So lush and green, being on the coast. That yeah, it's just different than a lot of the areas that I ride. So yeah, it was fun, and it's cooler in here as well, which is nice. Mind you, this morning I think it was +2 when we were signing up and signing in for the race, so it was bloody cold out. But by the time we kicked off at 11, it was reasonably nice, and nobody was wearing any jackets or anything, I don't think, for the race. So. get to where the AB split was. So anybody that's raced this race, a lot of the stuff that you've seen here off the start would be familiar, but coming up it'll be just the loop all the way to the finish line. So some new terrain if somebody's raced this but didn't do the A loop, you can see some new stuff here. We've got these old duffers here marking our tags off to confirm that we've made it through check. And away we go. our numbers on the bikes. It's nice to have a system where you don't have to worry about these things falling off. I find in Alberta the ones that we use are so flimsy. If you lose that, you'll get a DNF because they can't tell if you've completed the course or not. So these guys use some sort of leatherette material here, and it doesn't rip, and is really good for, you just don't have to worry about the thing falling off. So it gives you a little more confidence, and you don't have to put extra tape on it or do a whole bunch of other things that we would typically do in Alberta when we're given our number tickets. Now we're coming into one of the slow and agonizing places on the course. Lap 1 here, this was very jammed up. So all those people that I had let by, now I'm going to pay the price because they are all in front of me here. And this wasn't easy going. When we rode it the day before, of course, with nobody in the way, you can rip up this not too bad. It's still, it's still a challenge, but it's just a heck of a lot easier to be able to pick your line and do whatever. But now when you got guys jammed up every which way, it makes it a lot more difficult. I was running a Shinko Cheater 525 on the back of my bike, and honestly, it's a gummy tire, but the lugs are spaced so close together that when it comes to trying to climb rocks and whatnot, you end up basically doing burnouts because the lugs are so close they don't really grab the rock all that well. So yeah, I was running, so this is a 120, I don't know what it is, maybe a 120-100, and I had a 110-100, and the 110, although it's a smaller tire, they had bigger lug spacing before, so it was a better tire for this sort of stuff. But then I ordered some new ones, and of course they changed the lug spacing, and it's close together like the 120 now again, so not really a huge fan of that when it comes to rocky climbs. But at any rate, I'm sure there's other guys that have worse tires than I do, so you just gotta suck it up and push through. funny. There's a bit of a lineup, and it's basically just a rock slab, and you got to take a left on it. But if you do crawl up to it, it's so slippery that you can't actually get up it. So I was trying to hang back so that once it cleared, I could just ride up and not have a problem. But of course, I got past there. So once these guys get out of the way, I'll hit it, and you can see it's really nothing. But if you're not on the gas, you're not getting nothing. Section was fun. You make your way up to another checkpoint. It was kind of a weird setup, I guess, because they had a check up here, and you ended up looping around and crossing the check further on. So they had to hold you here and make sure that it was clear before you crossed the road. I've never really seen a race that's looped back on itself and had this collision course set up. They did a good job. There's enough people around here that are stopping you to make sure that you're not going to get T-boned. But yeah, it was really a janky setup. But I guess as far as running an efficient race, it was the only way to go. So, you know, something different. This next piece was interesting. It's go into the trees, and there's just a few zappy climbs, but there's no traction. Those climbs were not very easy. So on this lap, this first one wasn't too bad. The second time around for me, there was just a mega trench. So there must have been a lot of people that came through there that were having trouble, and there was a really big trench to try to get up through. So you'll see here in a second, but yeah, it's deceiving. this climb, it had my number on this day. The day before, I did have to hit it twice the day before, but was able to get up it fairly easily all the way to the top. However, on this day, I don't know, I just couldn't pick the bad lines or wasn't getting traction or I don't know, found a way to mess it up. So it was a bit of a struggle to get up here and took me more time than I would have liked to have spent in this particular area, but ended up getting through it. It's just, yeah, it sucks when you're on the side of a hill and you can't get momentum. I had to basically drop back down and try to hit it again and wasn't really any better off, so I fiddled around in here for quite a while.
Shit.
This road transfer section leads you into, I think this is all mostly, yeah, new area. Sometimes it's not on the maps anyways, but oh my god, this was so gross in here. Some very steep descents, and you know, the ground was soft, so probably easy to do an endo if you're not really careful, and then just rooty, mucky holes through here. There were a number of streams that were coming across and down, and yeah, this whole area got pulverized. Right now it's in really good shape on lap 2, and for the guys that would have done lap 3, it was just disgusting. So yeah, this was probably my least favorite part of the course from that perspective. It was neat, and I like dropping, down the steep hills, but this was just, yeah, this was something else. So pretty tiring. And of course, these bridges have zero traction on them too. So if you're not moving when you hit them, you're kind of SOL.
Cool. 182.
This was, not in horrible shape at this point, but on lap 2 it was really bad. There was some logs that were laying down in here at an angle, and I tried to get my front tire up, but the back tire just wanted to get sucked down in there, and then there was all kinds of rocks and logs and muck through this. So honestly, right now it's in good shape, but lap 2 it was really horrid. here is sort of the last bit of this section before you transfer back over to where that checkpoint was. And there's just, yeah, pretty technical, some sketchy drops, and you just gotta have your wits about you. I'm sure I ended up bottoming out my forks at the bottom of this because it was such an abrupt, just a steep downhill to just flat. So just hang on tight, cross your fingers.
Whoa, motherfucker.
After that mucky transfer section, they're holding those guys to let you go across, and then you drop in. And I thought this was one of the funner sections of the race. Lots of big slabs, big rocks to go up and down. And yeah, this was a really cool part of the race. You drop down to this next road, and then you get into the stuff. And yeah, no, I thought this was really cool. There was a few spectators in here later on, just checking out the action. And it's my understanding, I think they went up parts of this the year prior. So again, this is my first time here, so I don't know that for certain, but I believe I was told that they had ran the race up some of this. So yeah, really cool. From the day before, there's a cool rock slab here. You can go around to the right, but nobody ever likes to go around stuff, so I elected to hit this. And yeah, if you can get up and over it, it's not too bad. The day before, one of my buddies was struggling on it, and it was a really awkward place to try to get your bike turned around. So getting up that was, on lap 2, I really said that at that it was pretty fun. And there was a guy that was behind me, and I kind of checked out on him there because I think he went around to the right and probably got stuck. So it can pay to hit those lines that you might be a little bit apprehensive about, because if you clean them, you're laughing.
Look at that view. The ocean down there. Pretty wild. That one's a big drop. Wrist breaker.
Here's another big muck hole. I didn't trust going through it the day before, and I wasn't going to do it in the race. I know on lap 2 this was trenched out, so probably to the point where your pegs were going to be hitting and you'd stop dead. So I thought I'd just take my time, go to the right of it, and then I don't have to worry about it. But the next couple features here were somewhat tricky too. So I had to hit this one twice because I messed it up the first time. But there was an easy line off to the right. Just, I don't know. I'm here to experience the hard stuff. I'm not really worried about the easy lines, so I try not to take them if at all possible. See that guy's just jammed up in there, and that was the easy line. And yeah, I don't know, did something different there and was able to get up. Normally it's momentum really helps, but I kind of crawled into it, so I'm not sure. Just got lucky, I guess. Was able to get up it. rock slab was tricky. I guess depending on what angle you hit it at. If you went left and wide, it probably wasn't that bad, but to try to ride up on this with the roots, your front tire just wanted to slide off into the rut. So probably a good place to. I'm sure there must have been a lot of people that would have struggled here because it wasn't super easy, and if you messed up, your bike was going into the shed.
You should be cautious there.
See the road down there, so yeah, this was kind of a more technical section. I think this is what they sent the guys up and gals last year, but yeah, rocky. You could, wouldn't want to tip over there, but there's lots of places to hit rotors and brake levers and shifters and whatever else. So just, I don't know, kind of take your time and try to ride it out.
Yeehaw!
That's always nice. At least this was obviously lap one, so I'm planning to do more than one lap. But anyways, the start finish is near. And I remember this from the day before. I was checking to make sure that my camera was turned on because I thought this was really cool. You cross this bridge and then you've got the option to go right or left. And left was, you know, a big rock that you had to get up, and definitely a more technical line than going around to the right. So, yeah, of course, wanted to hit that and work my way up here. But the angle seems to be looking down quite a bit, so when I'm standing, you really don't get a good view of what's ahead, but there's really nothing I can do about it now, so we'll just suffer through that together.
Go the other way.
drop down and cross the bridge, and then there was a kind of a rock feature you can hit and blast up. It's short, but it was, I don't know, I thought it was fun anyway, so there was a few spectators that were there. Maybe people were chucking their bikes up, I'm not too sure. And then coming up here, actually my battery died, so I ended up having to change out my battery. Not exactly the most efficient way to be racing, but I like to record my races, and when the battery dies, I stop and swap out the battery. Stretch. It was funny on lap 2. I don't know what I was doing, but I bobbled right before this big rock and ended up slamming into it. I'm not sure. My arms must have been really tired, but anyways, yeah, I had a good face plant into that big rock. So yeah, I think there's a few big rock slabs here that you end up riding down. But yeah, this is neat terrain anyways, so different than what I normally see. Road crossing, and then this shoots us back down to the start finish. So yeah, that was a lap around Cat Scratch Fever for 2025. It was a fun day, and yeah, it's great to get in a couple laps. Guys, as I think I said before, were able to get in 3 laps, so kudos to them. But, yeah, I was good with 2 laps, and that was enough for me. So survived, no major incidents, just a couple simple mistakes, but those can cost you greatly when you're racing. So I don't know, some takeaways, and just try to improve and see how the rest of the season goes. Thanks for watching the video here, and yeah, see you on the next one.
What do I need fuel?
Well, you're right up.
Oh fuck, I got lots.
Yeah.